They betrayed her, lied to her, mocked her crown. So one day she walked past the nobles, ignored the bishops, and placed her royal crown on her dog's head. Because in a palace full of power-hungry traitors, only her dog had never left her side. This isn't a joke. It's history's cruel truth dressed in royal fur. If stories like these make your blood freeze, hit subscribe and stay until the end. She was a queen by blood, but she ruled in a court filled with vipers. Every smile had an agenda. Every toast came with a whisper. Ministers plotted, ambassadors lit, and even her own family waited for her to fail. Yet she sat on the throne with her back straight, lips silent, watching. Do it. But loyalty that was nowhere. Do it. Until one day when she returned from council and found her dog waiting by her side, tail still wagging. Do it. Not out of fear, not out of ambition, but love. And something inside her snapped. The queen wasn't naive. She had seen betrayal where velvet and lace. Her advisors bowed deeply, then sold secrets to foreign courts. Her cousins toasted her health while plotting to replace her. Even the guards paid to protect her were rumored to serve two masters. Every letter she opened came with suspicion. Every conversation felt like a test of her throne. Once a symbol of power, now felt like a gilded cage held up by liars. Dead in. Yet every evening, without fail, her dog curled at her feet. Do it. Silent, constant, unbribable that he wasn't a prize-hunting hound or a regal beast bred for display. He was small, scruffy, and born during a storm beneath the palace kitchen. But from a moment he first trotted into the queen's chamber, he never left her side. He didn't flinch during outbursts. He didn't care for crowns or court titles. That he knew her scent, her silence, her sadness. And while courtiers exchanged alliances like coins, he stayed even when no one else did. To the world, he was just a dog. But to her, he was the last soul she could trust. Every day, the queen sat through lies wrapped in ceremony, false smiles, forged letters, hollow oaths. Her council chamber echoed with elegant words that meant nothing. The weight of the crown on her head began to feel less like glory and more like punishment. That late at night, she'd remove it, place it gently beside her, and whisper, "What use is gold when hearts are made of stone?" And always beneath her feet, her dog would lift his head, eyes full of something no royal could fake. Loyalty, without condition. Word spread among the nobles. She speaks to her dog more than to her ministers. They laughed behind silken fans, smirked during processions. Some even mocked her grief, saying the queen had gone mad with isolation. But she heard every whisper, as she saw every smirk. And the dog. He barked at them all as she watched as those same mocking courtiers bowed to her in daylight, then betrayed her name by night, until finally one morning she looked around her court and said quietly, "I see no kings here, only fleas." It wasn't planned. It wasn't ceremonial. No trumpets, no scrolls. She simply walked into the royal chamber, crown in hand, followed by her trembling ministers. And as they awaited her orders, she turned, knelt beside her dog, and placed the crown upon his head. That a hush fell over the court, that the nobles looked on speechless, offended, terrified. And the queen, she smiled for the first time in months. At least now, she said, it rests on something loyal. That day, history bent, not from bloodshed, but from quiet defiance wrapped in fur. The news spread like wildfire. The queen crowned her dog. Couriers gasped. Servants whispered. Foreign ambassadors scrambled for explanations. That was it, madness. Mockery, a coded threat, but no one dared confront her. Do it. Because behind that one act was a deeper message that she was telling them. You can forge documents, poison cups, and bribe half my court, but I see you, and I choose not to honor you. From that day forward, her dog sat beside her on the throne steps, silent, furred, and watching the court with eyes purer than any man's. She stopped attending every council meeting. She stopped signing every decree. Instead, she watched, silently, steadily like her dog. The nobles who once ruled by scheming now stumbled under her quiet gaze. Some left court altogether. Some tried to beg for favor, but the queen no longer entertained apologies that the message had been sent. She would not reward pretense with power. Goat. And beside her, the crown dog remained, a breathing reminder that loyalty wasn't found in silk robes or noble blood, but in actions that never lied. When word reached foreign courts, reactions were split. Some kings laughed, others panicked. Diplomats wrote in frantic ink, "She's crowned an animal. Is she still sane?" But the clever ones understood she hadn't lost her mind. She had weaponized it by crowning her dog. She stripped her enemies of dignity without spilling a drop of blood. That no rebellion, no scandal, just a quiet humiliation delivered with a smile. And behind palace doors, even the boldest traitors began to hesitate, because now they couldn't predict her. The dog never barked at power. He barked at dishonesty. He didn't chase after gold or bow robes. He only followed truth. And the queen, surrounded by titles, symbols, and empty praise, found peace in that simplicity. That night, she would remove the crown from his head and place it beside her bed duct. That, during the day, she placed it back again and again. Not to mock the crown, but to remind the court this throne is not just about birthright, it is about trust. And trust once lost could never be bought back with silk or speeches past. And the story of the queen who crowned her dog became legend. Some wrote it off as eccentricity, others called it rebellion cloaked in elegance. But the queen never explained herself, that she didn't need to. Every time the noble entered her hall and saw that gentle creature beside her wearing the symbol of their ambition, they remembered that wasn't just a dog. It was her answer to betrayal, that a quiet rebellion that no sword could silence, no ink could erase, that a crown placed, not for show, but for survival. The day her dog passed, the palace fell silent. There were no bells, no royal mourning. But those who had watched closely, who had understood, felt the shift. That the queen didn't cry in public, as she simply picked up the crown from the dog's resting place and held it. That some expected her to finally place it back on her own head, but she didn't. She sat with it in her lap for hours, unmoving. It because what she had lost wasn't just a companion, but she had lost the last soul in the palace that never betrayed her. After the dog's death, something in the queen changed. She resumed wearing the crown, but it no longer felt like power. It felt like memory, like armor, like ash. That her court remained silent in her presence. Their once mocking eyes now unsured. They had seen what loyalty looked like, and what it caused her to lose it. That the crown shone brighter than ever, polished, respected, feared. But to the queen, it was just a hollow circle of gold, because no gem could replace what once sat beside her throne, wagging its tail without agenda. As the queen aged, her story twisted into folklore. In some versions, the dog spoke prophecy. In others, it ruled beside her from a miniature throne. But those who had lived through it, who had watched the court tremble beneath fur and silence, knew the truth. As she hadn't crowned a dog for spectacled, she'd done it too. Reveal the rot beneath the jewels. And though the dog was gone, the legend grew. Teeth, goat. Artists painted it. Poets whispered it. Goat. And young royals learned early, never betray a queen who still remembers the warmth of true loyalty. When the queen died, her state funeral stretched for miles. Nobles wept, beds hung, but amidst the gold and pageantry, one thing stood out. Beside her coffin lay a second, smaller casket lined with velvet, carved with quiet devotion. It was her dog